What's up, ADOS and our allies? You know who it is, Angela Nirvana, your hostess with the mostest on the Friends of ADOS TV channel, bringing you those ADOS hot topics and making the case for reparations, making the case for a Democratic down ballot strategy this election cycle. Follow on in, follow on in, follow on in, family. Good evening on the West Coast. Good evening in the Central. Good evening on the East Coast. Thank you so much for joining the live, for tuning in, for liking, sharing, and subscribing. We got an exciting show for you today. That William Dickens, Triangle ADOS, Twin City ADOS is our guest. And y'all know this son of a sharecropper and a sharecropper himself at one time is sheer fire. What's up, Robin, the girl wonder? Thank you, baby. Thank you for joining the live. Lineage first, thank you for joining the live. Yes, we got that firehouse, that firecracker. William Dickens, he is a show all by himself, okay? He was a one-man show, and he calls me periodically, and we go round and round about the puckery of ADOS, the lineage. We go toe to toe about so many issues concerning ADOS. And he had me on the floor today. You know, it's just the way we are so creative, the way we put things together. I just had to literally stop the conversation midstream to post something he said about ADOS being the anchor of America. It was brilliant to me. I was like, I got to do this right now. And so he is such an amazing soldier in this movement. He is, we all know and love him. And so I'm just excited to have him as a guest today. I'm going to bring him up to give you guys an opportunity to follow in. Make sure you put your chats and your comments, and we'll go through them. We do have to get through presidential today. Okay, Woodrow Wilson. We got to do it, family, because we didn't have story time the last time. I ran out of time. I ran overtime. Y'all know I was born to talk. Shout out to the 13%. I saw their show on the diaspora last night, and they had my longtime actress buddy and friend, Andrea Michelle, on that panel. And it was fire. I love the fireworks. I love what everybody had to contribute to the conversation. But in hindsight being 2020, what I agree with most is Cynthia and Arthur's position. We can't really have a conversation about Pan-Africanism until ADOS is made whole. Okay, until everybody can admit to what they did wrong, including Africa, how they participated in trading us as slaves. No, we can't forget that part, family. Why? Because they owe us too. We coming for Africa too. They're all instrumental. Everybody came up on the enslavement of what is now the ADOS. And I just love the part about how Arthur so poignantly expressed the need to identify as American. We've been over here for centuries. Before the country was formed, before we were enslaved by the Spaniards here. And we had freedmen. We discovered America before Columbus. But they have miseducated us so much we don't even know how deep our lineage runs in this country. Okay? And so to identify as American is to put a gate up around your justice claim, family. It's okay to acknowledge that we're from Africa, but I find it very convenient for folks that want to flatten blackness. This is another reason why we need our identification as American descendants of chattel slavery, right? Everybody wants to flatten blackness and mask the failure that 90% of the black folks in this country are having to eat. We are on the bottom, as the illustrious William Dickens shared. We are tethered to the bottom as the anchor of this country. Our blood, our bones, our ancestors paid an enormous price with their lives to build all the wealth you see in this country. As folks want to sit up here and act like reparations is an inconvenience to the country. Didn't y'all just see these people give themselves trillions of dollars of bailouts while we got peanuts? And folks are losing their homes, losing their jobs. In this country, up and did trillions for the corporatists and the billionaires and the stock market. They're propping that up while we're told there's no money for reparations. No, there's not a will for reparations. But just like the ancestors, enough of us collectively pushing for reparations will bring it into manifestation the same way our ancestors pushed Lincoln. Don't believe the hype. He didn't do it because he gave a darn about us. Okay, I'm going to try not to cuss. Forgive me. Some may fly out my mouth with William Dickens on the show. But the bottom line is, this was not done out of the kindness of his heart, family. Our ancestors, 500 of them, escaped from slavery onto the Union camps where the troops were to insist that we be free. And that's how that came to pass. So that same level of fortitude has got to be used by ADOS. It don't take all of us to do it, but it takes a good portion of us to keep pushing and to keep the heat on the government to make this happen. It's already happening out here in California. Shout out to ADOS California. The work is just beginning. Shout out to Ice Cube, who was instrumental in the 11th hour of picking up the phone and using his celebrity to get Governor Gavin Newsom to sign off on a study of reparations here in the state of California. And you guys know how it is. As California goes, so goes the nation. So you're not just only going to be repaired on a national level, you're going to be repaired by your states if we have anything to do with it. But trust and believe, the work is just begun. We now have to put a gate up around our ethnicity as American descendants of chattel slave. We've got to vet the people that are going to be on the commission. And we're also working on affirmative action, Prop 16, to ensure that that entitlement that not only was taken from us and afforded white women immigrants and LGBTQ is going to exclusively serve the ADOS down here. So the work is never finished. Once you're in this fight, just be prepared to be in this fight. Because once we get the repair, we got to fight to keep it, to guarantee those checks get cut in the trillions over multi-generations. Right, family? Okay, so with that said, family, I'm going to bring up our illustrious guest, the one, the only, Mr. William Dickens, Triangle ADOS. Stand by. Thank you, William, for joining the live. How are you, fam?
I'm fine, Angela. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm blessed and unstoppable.
Yeah.
I was just explaining to the family about how we engage in some of the richest discussions and how your mind works and how you are able to explain it in the way that you do to bring about understanding of what's happening with ADOS, the lineage, ADOS, the movement. You just tickle me, and I needed you on this live to tickle the rest of the family about some of the new things that are happening out here in the as the lives of ADOS turn. That's what I call it. One big old soap opera. Ongoing.
Yeah. Always ongoing. Always ongoing.
Yes.
That's our life. You know, I always say when you ADOS, you got 3 stages of life. Either you heading into a nightmare, you're in a nightmare, or you just came out of a nightmare. Now, I want some of y'all to let that set in because I know y'all like the positive. But the truth is, that's your 3 stages of life, you know, and it's repeated constantly in many, many different ways, When I told Angela today about us being that anchor, it don't matter how big and powerful that ship is. That anchor is always big enough to hold it in place. They can't move without an anchor moving from the bottom of the ocean, meaning it always sink in deep enough that the ship will not move. That's ADOS in America. We pent at the bottom. We the anchor. America is big, powerful, but for some reason they can't move forward. You see? And just like that great, big, powerful ship can't move forward until that anchor rises from the bottom of that ocean and get back to the top of that deck, the ship moves. America will not move forward until they raise ADOS to the top of that deck and put us in our rightful way. See, and it made me, what made this cross my mind, because some of the people that campaigning for Joe Biden, they text me today, wanting to know if I get them 3 votes for Joe Biden. And you know I stood on my square. I said, I'm ADOS. It's down ballot Democrat. We ain't giving up no votes for nothing. We ain't cowards. We fighting and standing for something. So we down ballot. We ain't putting it at the top of that ticket. I said, but it's amazing to me that your campaign is ran on moveon.org. You see, it's amazing. It's almost like spitting in our face, telling me to forget what you did to my daddy. Forget what you did to my mama. Forget what you did to my granddaddy. Forget what you did to my mama. But what we can't do is not forget about 9/11. Are you crazy? You know how many of our people have died decade after decade, century after century?
Still dying.
Still dying. I just read an article today. They found a young black man hanging in a tree. In 2020, young black man hanging in a tree. I'm still reading articles and questioning our mind state as ADOS of black people. We talked about it today. The white man did a show about the white woman stepping in front of people of color, even though he was all off, because we ain't people of color, we ADOS, because everybody got a color, and we need to stop falling for the trickery. Stop using this word. If you ADOS or a black person or whatever, you don't want to say ADOS, you want to say you black. Be wise enough to know it's common sense. Have you ever met a person that don't have a color? When you pick up a Crayola box, it's a white crayon in that box. Stop using these dumb terms as if you that dumb and not realize they saying this for everybody, even white males and white women. You got to get specific with language. Specific with language. That's the key to this thing. Stop letting people play you. But when we sit and think about it, the white man saying the same thing I'm stressing, Angela's stressing, Yvette Cornell stressing, Antonio Moore stressing, Dr. Serenity, be the power is stressing. Arthur them is stressing to you that these people have shoehorned their way into our story. But because the white man said it goes viral. We saying it every day and we getting pushed back. That's our mental condition from slavery. Still enchained by looking for a white savior. Instead of looking at each other, the same people that had to save one another then are the same people got to save us now. Me and you. Your own kind. Stop having that self-hate so rooted in you that you wait for whites to okay anything before you push. Man, we talked today about the 3 kind of whites. And I want to stress this to my people to start using your head. You got 3 kind of white people in this country. No different than the 3 stages of life that ADOS goes through. You got the white racists that hide behind the Bible. You got the white polite racists. And you got the upfront racists. Now, you would say they pretty different. No, I told you they all are racist though. Because another problem with our mental condition to me is we quit to try to defend them. if I start telling you the truth about white folk, it ain't a couple seconds later, somebody, one of these Negroes gonna say, they all are not like that. Now, I just broke down the three to you. It's because you don't know how to dissect them, but I do. ADOS people do know how to dissect them. So I had a white man the other day, he was talking to me. He felt intrigued to try to tell me that God loves me. Well, as soon as he told me how God loves me, I told him, do you support reparations for ADOS, the American descendants of slavery? He said, nope, that's a handout. I said, you're a racist. See, I did not allow him to hide behind the Bible for his racist ways. I exposed them right in his face. That's ADOS. That's for my daddy that they worked to death to die with nothing. You see, that's when you stand on your square. I explained to him. He said, see, you think it's about money. He told me it was about saving souls. I said, okay, let's see how much you really back up your talk. Because it seemed mighty, to me, with us, we can tell from one another. You get it, and oh, you just talking. But when white folks say something like that, blacks don't ever say that. They believe it. Because once again, I got that white savior. You see? So I say to the man, I said, okay, let's see how much you really into saving souls over money. This is what I'm willing to do. I'm going to sign over everything I got to you. You can have it. My debt, my blackness, you can have it. But I need you to sign over to me everything you got. Oh, why would I do that? Exactly.
Christian.
But you're talking about a handout. You see, Angela? But that's the racist that hides behind the Bible. Because a lot of times we emotional people because we done experienced and then endured so much. Our emotions take us over. If somebody say the Bible, he got to be good. Not here, baby. It's pushback. My people are going to get justice. And then I had another white man I was talking to. This was the polite racist, where he encouraged me. Well, I don't know why it is people doing what they doing to black men and women. I always raised my kids to treat everybody good. And I always treated everybody good. I say to him, wait a minute. I'm not a kindergartner. I'm a grown man. I said, you being nice to me, pay my bills. Keep me from getting evicted. Keep me on the job. It don't. You see? And he looked at me and said, William, I ain't never thought about it like that. Because you're using your politeness to hide behind your racism. You see?
Oh, yeah.
And now we to the third one, the one that comes straight out. He might be a skinhead. He might be a Klan member. He might be a Nazi. You see? But you already know what he is. He tell you straight up, I don't like you, boy. You see? Now, a lot of people say, who the worst out the three? You see? You may consider the last one I told you about. But he's the least of your worries. You know exactly who he is. See, the first two are the most dangerous. See? Because you will let your guard down for them.
Yes.
You will tell me, all of them ain't like that. You see? But if I start talking about black people and saying, oh, black people just don't want anything, you will be full-chested in the conversation, never once defending your people. That's the mental enslavement these people have did on us. We struggle with a lot of things through ADOS. One of the biggest things to me as ADOS, we got to understand first our conditioning, our way of seeing things. We quick to make assumptions. We don't know the fact. We'll make the assumption though. It's naturally in our DNA because they wired us this way. You see, when you've been wired a certain way, the same way that brokenness been passed down generation after generation, so has the mental condition. been passed down generation to generation. Meaning your mother, your father didn't intentionally want to give you that mental change, but it was the only thing they knew to. But with Adolf, it's time for us to free our minds. When I say free them, it's time to think for yourself, for your group. Stop listening to CNN News. Stop letting these people run you scared out of your skin. You so scared. Oh, be scared of Trump. Be like he the first one that we done had to deal with. America birthed him. That's like it birthed Joe Biden. You see?
Yes.
It's time to stand on that square. It's time to push back at all costs. At all costs. If you're running around here scared to bleed, how you gonna ever live? You can't be scared to bleed. You will never live. You can't think something is too big. When we say to you that we are a worthless group, and we come behind and say, what do we produce? And you start telling me you know black business because you don't understand where our car line at. Where our car line at since Jordan got so much money for it, since Oprah got so much money for it, where the car line at? You see? It ain't one. Where our shipping company at? They got money though, don't they? Angela, they got money though. We got a lot of black people talking about they got money. Where they shipping business at? Where they competing at against Amazon? See?
Facebook.
YouTube. Where our social media that we own, operate, and control, where we can express ourselves freely without being blocked, without being locked from telling the truth. Where that? See, we got all these things going on. Everybody trying to go after the bag. Everybody looking for what ain't gonna happen without doing politics. In your families, we fighting against families that we trying to save from immigration. We trying to save you from immigration. We are Harriet Tubman. In the flesh, in your face, with the pistol. Right here, Adolf. We are the Harriet Tubmans.
You better
with
know.
The pistol trying to get you off the plantation. Trying to say, listen, this is going to destroy your kids. It's going to destroy you. If Joe Biden and Kamala Harris open them floodgates, it's done for Adolf.
You better know it.
We running around here living in a kindergarten world and grow as grown people. As if America can take in the entire universe and not collapse from within. Can't be done. Sorry. Sorry, little kindergartners. It can't be done. It's time to grow up. It's time to understand that you are the group O, and everybody has been riding your back. Right now, riding our back. Black males are sitting in prison, being counted as herds while we sitting here talking. You see? But nobody don't want to get serious about it. Nobody don't want to get serious because it ain't them yet. This is another thing me and Angela talking about. See, we got so many ADOS black people that ain't advocating for their group. You see, they doing everything by advocating. They doing everything. I don't really get into that. I don't care about politics. That's fine. When it's your turn, when that boot from that dirty cop come down on your neck and your dead body lays in the street, but you ain't advocated for me. You ain't advocated for your kid, but now that boot is on your neck. You want me to come out. You see?
Let me jump in there about Jonathan Price, the brother in Texas that was recently executed by the race soldiers in the gas station trying to break up a white fight.
Oh, yes. Tell it.
So whitewashed, caring more about these white folks' entanglement. Apparently, it was a domestic dispute, and someone called the police, and as his hands were up, he was trying to explain to the police whom he loves. He has gone to bat for the police. He has gone to bat for white folks. He has shamed his own people and lifted white folks up so much that they're the ones crying crocodile tears all over Facebook for him having been executed, while Lee Merritt condemns black folks for not giving a damn. This brother's soul completely on ice. And the very police he cleaved to just executed him like worse than a dog in the street. That speaks to that soul on ice, that post-traumatic slave syndrome that you just echoed.
Yeah.
How we are so accustomed to everybody being on the tit that we don't even know how to advocate for ourselves without apology. And when you do advocate for yourself and your group, you're a COINTELPRO. You're called a Russian bot. You're called a Trump supporter. When, these are the same snake. I think it was Izza on Black Pact panel Sunday that I was on. Shout out to the Black Pact, Tara Terry. That was a fire show that we did together. But RZA, or was it Logic, that said that the Democrats and the Republicans are two fangs out of the head of the same snake. And the beauty of all of this, what's up, Lineage First, Robin Girl Wonder, Saya Latre, leader of ADOS, Johnny Moret, Triangle ADOS. Thank you so much, guys, for joining the live. And all of you who have not typed into the live, I thank you for watching. But yeah, so Jonathan Price fits this bill that you're speaking of.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I don't want to disparage the dead, but why should we cry crocodile tears over people who hate themselves and hate their group?
We shouldn't. We shouldn't. That to me, that's spitting in our face. And you ain't gonna spit in my face and get away with it. Bottom line. It's gonna be problems and consequences. See, and we got to get self-interest like that. We got to get for our group and get anchored in it. And love one another. Understand when I say love, don't tell me you got love for me. Yet you don't care whether what happens to me, but I care what happens to you. See, real love, self-love, is when you look out and see things that look like you automatic love it. Meaning you don't want to see nothing bad happen to it. You see? But you don't wait for it to happen before you start fighting. Because we come from a long 400 years of this injustice. This ain't just starting in 2020, and it didn't just start with Trump. Do not let these people keep making it like it just started. Under Obama, white cops, Mexican cops was killing ADOS men and ADOS women. Didn't start under Trump. Started long before Trump. See, this is where we keep saying we must think for ourselves. It's time to think for yourself. Free your mind from this white savior. We see it appear constantly. How can for the last almost 4 years ADOS been out here saying what a white man said and got it wrong? He still got it wrong, and it goes viral. That speaks to our mental condition. See, because if you looked out at your camera right now and you love me and you love Angela, this goes viral. See, this goes viral. See, this don't go viral because when I'm talking, William, he too aggressive. He sound too aggressive to me. He sound like he got some hate in his voice. No, this is love and passion for you.
That's it.
But you don't have the same love and passion for me or Angela. You see?
Yes.
That's where the problem is at. That's where the problem lies at. We fighting for your kids that we don't know their name. We fighting for your grandma that's struggling to pay her light bill right now. We fighting for my mama that's struggling to pay her bills over there. And her 6 kids that's in the circle of that, they're circling, the circle of the same thing their mom and their dad went through, struggling to pay their bills. We must free our mind, think for ourselves. Stop waiting for somebody white to regurgitate what I just said, what Angela just said, what Yvette Cornell has been saying, what Antonio Moore has been saying, what Dr. Darity wrote a book on. Wait for them to say it, and we already telling you what it is. That's Dr. Darity's book right there. We doing this work. We don't need a white savior to okay our message. We stand for our people. We stand for ourselves. We don't need white people supporting us. We don't let the white man control our movement. When we talk freely. We talk for the unjust people in our group to get them justice. If you don't take the time at least once a week to hear something, to educate yourself and say how, and it feels like I'm going in a circle that's so unstable. There's many of you out there. You get a check, you're broke. You get a check, you're broke. You ain't by yourself. We all in the same. And what's the data on? Almost 80% of black people living check to check.
Oh, yeah. I would venture to say since COVID, far more than that.
You see?
Okay, you have, out of 100% of black folks, only 10% of us are earning, I think, 130,000 or greater.
Yeah.
The other 90% of us are sharing around 700 billion. We're under that.
Yeah.
To white folks, 100 trillion.
Yeah. Now,
we may have income, and I would venture to say not many of us do. What's up, Cosetta Osler, ADOS Arkansas Rising, Kim Mitchell, Wednesday Adams. Thank you guys for joining the live. But yeah, so we're a wealthless group. We may have income, some of us, but we're a wealthless group by design of institutional systemic racism. And those of us that are here, that have access, and not all of us, because I have had people inbox me that they are tuning in from homeless shelters on their phones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That is the real ADOS life that's happening. And to me, until all of us are free, none of us are free. How in the world can we sleep at night or live in luxury knowing that the lesser of us who don't have this great fortune, which ain't that great when you compare it to over 24 trillion that we're owed. Right. Imagine how we could be living with 1.5 to 2 million per person. And it's not like this country isn't able. So that's a real big problem and an issue in the ADOS, the lineage at large, is that they believe that they've come up because they may be earning figures. But the challenge with that is white folks control that. So anytime they want to take that 6 figures from you, they can start coming for your job and messing with you anytime they please.
That's right.
I talk about reparations, something that they can't give away to all the other groups.
That's right.
Because that is what happens if ADOS doesn't get involved and fix HR 40. And if we're not on the commission for the reparation studies down here in California. So the work is constantly being done. And it's a constant, you have to constantly be in this fight. And the tragedy is that there's been a huge chasm in the fight. Folks want to talk about in Cobra. Well, there's a clicking sound. Is that something I'm doing?
I don't know.
Okay, stop.
Hold on. Let me do something.
Uh-oh. Where'd you go, William?
Good. Don't worry about it. I'm coming back.
Okay. Yeah. But the bottom line is that's what in Cobra and NARC, everybody wants to talk about how they were fighting for reparations before ADOS got involved. Well, I'm here to tell you, I never heard of reparations until ADOS got involved. And so it didn't get traction until ADOS got involved. So I want everyone to leave with a sense of the fact that ADOS is getting it done. We are speaking to a large group of very woke. I don't know what that clicking is. Hold on 1 second. Hold on. I'm going to mute your mic. Okay. It's something on your end that's clicking in the feed, William. So I will unmute you to talk. But I was just sharing. Just hold on 1 second. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Huh? You can hear me. Yeah. Okay. I keep getting a clicking sound, but I'm going to unmute your mic in a moment. What I'm trying to say is that it took ADOS to revolutionize in the social media spaces to bring reparations out of the shadows of Narcan and Cobra. And when you look at Narcan and Cobra and the way they're trying to include all Blacks, that's where the problems come in. And that's probably why it didn't get traction. Furthermore, they've been at this for about 30 years. So it's a bunch of older people on this Narcan and Cobra team who Sheila Jackson Lee is ignoring ADOS to entertain. But we've got other people we could talk to. Ice Cube, who is now on our team and fighting for repair, has sat down with the Republicans too. So the Democrats can play this game all they want to, but trust and believe, you can be confident in the fact that ADOS is growing all throughout the country. And mostly it's Gen X and the millennials who have no problem starting a revolution by voting Democratic down ballot. And anyone but Kamala and Joe Biden at the top of that ticket. My thing is we all have to show up to the polls. Akin to what happened back in the Gap when Roosevelt dishonorably discharged 167 Buffalo soldiers for killing a white man while they were quarantined in their barracks. Dr. Charles Morris, pastor of Abyssinian Church, said, because he did this to the Buffalo soldiers after we elected him, after 71% of us gave him that vote. And so Dr. Charles Morris, pastor of Abyssinian Church, says, you shot us when our guns were empty. But we got something for that. At the time, we were predominantly voting Republican. And so he said the next election cycle, we're going to deliver a Democrat president and marry you with a Republican Congress to protect the people in the South who had very little protection. As you already know, we were lynched and Jim Crowed and sharecropped to death and convict leased to death. Okay, so even in the little tiny bit they gave, it was more than what the Democrats at the time were doing for us. And so there was a changing of the guard with Truman because he desegregated the military. We'll be getting into all that in Presidential, okay? But the bottom line is ADOS has been putting in work all over the country to make reparations a national debate topic and a demand of both candidates. And they have still been trying to give us class-based policies which don't fix race. Okay? They're trying to take our repair and give it to everyone. Kamala Harris has H-1B visas for an already wealthy immigrant group in this country. Down here in Los Angeles, ADOS is 200 liquid to African immigrants, 60,000 liquid to white, 110,000 liquid to Kamala's people, $245,000 liquid. And she tells you as she clutches her invisible pearls, I'm not doing anything specifically for your group, while campaigning on the promise of bringing more Brahmin Indian caste people who come from a wealth position, because the color of white in this country is green. She's bringing more of them over here for tech jobs when they're competing with us, who are a wealthless group. So all these other folks, Latinx is made white, okay? Because white folks are dying out. So they're just deciding to allow other people to be white and have access to whiteness called money. It don't matter what color your skin is. That's why I keep telling folks, Kamala's not black. She's white. She may have been born in this country, but her mother is Brahmin Indian caste. She was able to come over here and get an Ivy League education because of the ilk she comes from in India. This was back in the 50s. She was able to come over here and get an Ivy League education in the institutions our ancestors built with their lives. So you guys want to always look at this and be stuck on not my conscious people. ADOS, the lineage. Want to give this woman credit for being white when she is Indian, or black when she is Indian. She's more white than she is ADOS. But she weaponizes and uses blackness while giving her people access to a come up in the country our ancestors built with their lives, while telling us she's not doing anything specifically for the wealthiest group tethered to the bottom, as William Dickens said, the anchor of America. And so that's why I'm on this message every show, to show up. I'm voting Green Party top of the ticket. You could choose to leave it blank. You could choose to write in ADOS. Just, I'm imploring upon you to know your Board of Election laws, because I don't want you to be guilty of suppressing your own vote. Just know that thoroughly before you manipulate that ballot. But know that neither party is for ADOS. When you go over to Jim Crow Joe's platform, you'll see where he mentions minority 30 times and people of color 22 times that I counted. And we can no longer identify as Black, African American, minority, people of color. Why? Because we disappear in those translations while everybody else grabs the bag. And a trifecta of either party is going to be to the ADOS peril. Wait for it. We can't have either of these parties. That's why we are imploring upon you to join us in this protest vote and gridlock government by making way for a Trump top in a Democratic Congress, so we can stop the hemorrhaging long enough to continue to work on fixing HR 40 and replacing the lame Congress people with ADOS for ADOS, like Tamara Johnson-Shealy out of Georgia running for U.S. Senate. Please donate, volunteer, and vote for Tamara Johnson-Shealy. She is a reparationist, and that's at the top of her platform. And that's why Obama endorsed Warnock to silence Tamara Johnson-Shealy. But we need more of her. We need more Tamara Johnson-Shealys in that Congress if we ever expect to get reparations. Why? Because Congress holds the bag, not the president. We need 200 of Tamaras in that Congress to be full-chested about the reparations we are owed in the trillions over multi-generations for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives. We need all hands on deck in this protest vote to deliver that Democratic Congress to protect the over 42% of ADOS, since COVID is definitely exponentially larger, that rely on government assistance by design of institutional systemic racism. It is no fault of our own that they're murdering each other in big cities like Chicago, that they're stealing from each other in big cities like Chicago. These are gang territories that were produced and manufactured by the government on every level. When you rob a city of its resources, you miseducate them. You give them a preschool to prison pipeline. You take away their ability to get gainful employment by putting immigrants in place of them, which is why immigration is crushing to ADOS. This puts Black men out of jobs, and we need Black men to have Black babies, because that's what we're on, Black family first. Hello, shout out to Shirley Huzar, BF1. We're on Black family first. We are on jobs, education, affordable housing, home ownership, business ownership, not abortion clinics, not preschool to prison pipeline. We are about that Black love and making sure our lineage has what it needs to be able to produce Black babies that can take this over. All of this is by design of institutional systemic racism to keep us tethered to the bottom while giving more immigrants a pathway to citizenship before making us American. let me unmute you, William, so you can have some closing words, and I can bid you adieu so I can get into our dead President Woodrow Wilson reading for this evening and get the family off to a good rest. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, and I agree with a lot. Everything you're saying is spot on. We need to understand very clearly what we facing and what we dealing with here. It's no way out of this but to become a group where you're more concerned about the future of your kids, your family, your group. Because you're going to need your group to beat this systematic oppression. You can't do this by yourself. We know we got a lot of do-for-selfers out there that's ready to run. But I'm telling you, at the end of the day, you can't tear that skin off no matter how fast you run. You know, it don't matter if you paint your fingernails and say, I'm a girl now. They don't care. You still, the core of you would still be ADOS. And we need to understand when people want to say we all these different titles, when it comes to us saying LBGQ is an ideal. I say it full chest, and I say it because it's common sense as an ideal. It's an ideal for me. It's an ideal for them because the ideal is something you feel today that can change tomorrow. Nobody can't argue with that. Nobody. You see, you know people that used to be, when I say it's an ideal, meaning today, you feel this way. Tomorrow you can say, hey, I don't feel that way no more. ADOS don't have that benefit. I'm black today. I'm black tomorrow. I'm ADOS today. I'm ADOS tomorrow. I'm still from the group that they attacking. It don't matter if I got some paper, got money in my pocket today, and I'm broke tomorrow. I'm still ADOS today. Still ADOS tomorrow. Ideals must go. We got to get rid of ideals. We must understand what we are anchored in. Just like that anchor of that ship. You anchored in this. So why not stand on this? Why not stop? To me, it bothers me that my group, that boy that just got home, they just had the news story on. Boy just got home. Young guy.
Yes.
When these white people go out to get one of us, whether we are ADOS man or ADOS woman, when one of these whiteness get these racists get in their mind, they want to hang a black man, they don't stop and ask him, are you one of those activist Negroes? They don't do that. They just get one and hang him. But over here in our group, once again, I'm mental conditioning. We trying to figure out which one of these white people with us. Instead of saying, listen, it don't really matter. Because all the data shows every time the question of reparation and real justice for ADOS people, 90% of white people are against it. So why are you running around trying to pick from 5% of white folks? That don't make no sense. Break the mental chain. Break those chains. Start thinking for yourself. I don't care because you work with them. You go eat lunch with them. You put on your mask when you do it. I don't wear no mask. Angela don't wear no mask. We ADOS in a present and right now. And it's time for you to pull yours up. And if you don't understand these dots that we up here connecting together, you need to start educating yourself so you will. You need to start listening to shows like Yvette, Antonio Moore, Be the Power, Angela, reading Dr. Darity, following these people. They ain't gonna lead you wrong. The light will eventually come on. It came on for IQ. It'll come on for you. See, it's okay. The light got to come on. You got to think a different way. I was telling somebody the other day, if you've been on this planet 40 years and you ain't never stopped to evaluate your life and say, okay, if what William Dickens saying is bull crap, because I know some of you out there saying, why ain't I moved on forward? See, ask yourself that. Okay, let's say we got some of you out there, what? You got a house, you got a little car, you see, but you still ain't nothing but a consumer. See, you might be questioning, what you mean I'm a consumer? I got a house. A house is a purchase. Consumers purchase things, see? That car you drive, that's a purchase for a consumer. See, you just a consumer. When slavery ended, The mission of the ADOS people was to be consumers. In 2020, you're still a consumer. Yet you tell yourself every day how much you done achieved. How? When at the end of slavery, the only reason you stayed in this country because white folks said we can still use them. They can be the consumers. See? Here it is, 2020, you still the consumer. Your rappers you listen to that you claim got money, they got on a $20,000 jewelry necklace, bragging about it, how wealthy he is. It's just a consumer. He's operating as white master wanted him to operate. Boy, go out there and buy that $20,000 necklace I built for you. You see? Go buy that. Go buy that Lamborghini. You see? Be what I told you to be, boy. A consumer. You'll never be a producer, though. You'll never have your own car line, boy. You'll never control your own business, boy. Never. Because that's the power of whiteness. And they ain't picking and choosing. They stand on, it's going to be us doing the production. Oh, you like to run a football, boy? No problem. We always needed blacks to entertain us. Let's go back to slavery. Most of your house Negroes was entertainers. They played the flute, they tapped danced, they told jokes. They entertained your people, telling you every day how we done came somewhere. How? We in the exact same spot as we was then. Ain't moved one iota. But they changed the picture in front of your eyes because they gave you credit. They gave you a line of credit that allowed you some access to some things. And you think that line of credit somehow has freed you. Well, you don't understand credit. And I know a lot of you don't understand credit because you talk about it all the time. I'm going to teach my child how to handle a credit card. Well, there's one major thing you're forgetting about credit. Credit is debt. Period. It's debt. You see? And if you had what you would owe from this country, you wouldn't have to go in debt to buy things you need. Because this country owes you trillions. Am I right, Angel? So we got to rewrite our mind. We're seeing things backwards. We got to stop trying to pick and choose between whites, but yet turn our back 100% on our group with no worry. Yet, when our child is out there in that street, and unjust act done happened to him, you want me to run to the scene. But I was on this phone with Angela saying, come join us in this fight. We need you in this fight. You turned your back on us. So understand, don't be let down if the same thing happens to you. Because where was you at when we was right here? Spending these hours on these calls, reading all these books, researching all this stuff. Where was you standing at in solidarity with us? And that's the question I need ADOS people, black people, to ask themselves tonight. Where was you when your group needed you? You see? So I'll let Angela wrap it up. I won't kill her show. I know she want to get into a book, you know what I'm saying?
I just love your fire. And whenever, we get in, whenever you can come back and be a guest on this show, you are always welcome. You always have a place over here at the Friends of Studio TV channel. Thank you as always for bringing the fire. We so appreciate and love you so much for everything you do. ADOS Strong. Thank you.
All day.
All right, my friend. So you can continue to watch. I got to read to my people. It's story time.
Okay.
Love you, black and strong, my brother. I'll be talking to you real soon.
Okay.
Good night.
Later.
Ooh-wee. Wasn't that fire, family? Just rich. You guys are the wind beneath my wings. You know that, right? You know I love you, black and strong. You know I thank you for supporting the movement. I thank you for slinging bricks. I thank you for sharing about the ADOS movement. I thank you for being the laborers in the vineyard, my comrades. I'm so glad Yvette Carnell and her hashtag movement ADOS brought us together. My new family. Yes, you are. Okay, family. Y'all know it's time for story time. It's time to talk about another one of these dead presidents to help you in your resolve, to help us break the back of the establishment this election cycle. I read to you because y'all don't read. Not all of you, but some of you don't read. Know that I'm not going to be reading this big old book to y'all come November 13th. I think it's Friday, November 13th. We're giving love to Dr. Sandy Darity and Kirsten Mullins, who wrote this book, From Here to Equality. You see how many pages this is compared to presidential? Look at it. I'm not reading this to y'all. Now, I will have my highlights and I will give you an overview of my chapters. And I want you guys to do like you do with Yvette. Y'all read for Yvette, okay? Y'all get the books. I want y'all to treat me like I'm Yvette, okay? Get your book and get to reading. You have 1 month from today, 30 days to get this read. You can break it down a chapter and a half or so a day and get this done so y'all can chat in the comments and I can show them and we can have an exchange. With that said, forgive me if I have to take breaths because this stuff is very hard, but I need you to have a solid resolve that you're going to help us to break the back of the establishment by delivering a Republican top and a Democratic Congress to break the back of the establishment. Let them hug it out and fight it out. Maybe by 2024, the Democrats will be a resounding yes to our repair. If not, we will Democratic down ballot, wash, rinse, repeat, akin to what we've been doing with the lesser two evil two-step shuffle to George Floyd 846 to the neck for 84 years. We've been doing this since Theodore Roosevelt, 36. 71% of us voted for Theodore Roosevelt, only for him to dishonorably discharge 167 Buffalo soldiers who were wrongfully accused of murdering a white man while being quarantined in their barracks from the first time they were accused of killing the first white man. I believe these white men killed one of their own, probably one that they thought loved us too much, and decided to come for the soldiers. He dishonorably discharged them. Okay, so this has been going on since before the country was formed. This institutional systemic racism to tether us to the bottom, and that is the fight we are in. The fight of our lives to prevent from becoming the permanent underclass in the country our ancestors built with their lives. So get, like Yvette says, get your libations and let's dig into the text. I'm only doing one tonight because he's a little longer, than the other chapters. So forgive me, I will be commenting in between to show you the parallels to how nothing has changed today. Absolutely nothing. Woodrow Wilson, 1913 to 1921. Woodrow Wilson was born in Virginia in 1856 and also lived in Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina as a young man. He vividly remembered meeting Robert E. Lee and watching Union troops occupy his hometown of Staunton, Virginia in 1865. Ironically, as we've been discovering with many of these presidents, his paternal grandfather was an abolitionist Ohioan. But Wilson's parents had adopted an acceptance of Southern culture, including slavery, when they moved south. So he just dismissed all of his roots from Ohio, got south, and was very much about it, enslaving us. They were slaveholders and strongly pro-Confederate. They and their son remained unreconstructed throughout their lives. That means that they never not believed in slavery from the time they went south. Forgive the sounds outside, family. Uh, until I get all that I need, it is what it is. It's 90 degrees down here, so I have to keep the patio open. As president of Princeton University from 1902 to 1910, Wilson made certain that Blacks were not allowed to attend. He called their desire for education there unwarranted. Apparently, others at Princeton followed his lead because Princeton didn't have a Black graduate until 1946. After his stint at Princeton, Wilson was elected governor of New Jersey. He ran as the Democratic Party nominee for president in 1912 against Republican incumbent Robert Taft and his predecessor, Theodore Roosevelt, who ran this time on the Bull Moose Party platform. Republican votes were split between Taft and Roosevelt, and Wilson won with 40% of the vote, me speaking. This is what can happen with Tamara Johnson Shealy, U.S. Senator. She's running for U.S. Senate in Georgia. 21 candidates are running for U.S. Senate. And this is why she has a chance. I just read to you that Wilson won because Roosevelt and Taft split the votes. Same thing could happen with the Green Party if there was enough momentum behind them. And there very well might be. I had vice presidential candidate Angela Walker on the show. And I thank her for coming on that show. A lot of our ADOS were just coming for her throat. But I'm here to tell you, family, she was reading from her notes because she wanted to make sure she covered everything and did not miss a beat. I read from my notes. So it's not that she was ill prepared. Sometimes I look away when I'm trying to fashion what I'm trying to say. So let's not be so hard on ADOS, who is trying their best in the Green Party and outside of the Green Party to help ADOS get all that they are owed. She is willing to sit down and talk with the ADOS movement, unakin to the Democrats and the Republicans. I think they're willing to talk to Ice Cube, but not the ADOS movement. You know, the contract for Black America is different from ADOS 101 and demanding trillions over multi-generations. But they'll sit down with Cardi B. Like she can speak on Black politics at the same time creating disgusting music like WAP. They won't sit down with those of us that are seriously upsetting this election. And I'm glad to be amongst that tribe that is upsetting the election. We'll see how it all turns out. But I'm on my square until the polls close. Back to the text. We can absolutely get Tamara that victory. Donate Tamara for Georgia and vote, vote, vote. Tell everybody in Georgia that you know to vote for her. She is a reparationist. Wilson did not actively campaign for Black votes. Me speaking. Isn't that true of Biden and Kamala? Not offering us anything because they're accustomed to us being their muse for 84 years? Doing the lesser of two evil two-step shuffle to our own peril? But in a letter to Bishop Alexander Walters of the African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church, he said that he wanted to, quote, assure my colored fellow citizens of my earnest wish to see justice done them in every matter, and not mere grudging justice, but justice executed with liberality and cordial good feeling. Every guarantee of our law, every principle of our Constitution commands this, and our sympathies should also make it easy, close quote. This is the same man that denied us education at Princeton. You see how they say what they think you want to hear to pander for your vote? It ain't new. I just read it to you. It ain't new. Wilson was aided by anger not only at Taft, but also at Roosevelt. Lingering bitterness over the handling of the Brownsville soldiers case created a rift between Black Americans and the Republican Party. So what Dr. Charles Morris, me speaking, suggested when Roosevelt dishonorably discharged the Buffalo soldiers to the tune of 167 and invoked this strategy of breaking the back of the establishment, as you see here, it lingered over. So Wilson was upset about that. This is how effective we are when we move as a block, when we all decide to get into this movement and sling, even if it's just in the protest and voting Green Party top of the ticket, leaving it blank or filling in ADOS at the top of the ticket. If you support Trump, put him at the top of the ticket, but give us the most progressive of Democrats down ballot to lock it down and to break the back of the establishment. And yes, there will be casualties. There always are when you're at war with your own country. But this time around, it won't just be ADOS. You give these people a trifecta of either party, everybody will get their spoils and go home, and the suffering will continue exclusively for ADOS. It is time to socialize our suffering. You know, how the capitalists are only capitalists when they're profiting, but how they socialize their losses. That's what we need to do with the only commodity we've got, our vote. The letter to Bishop Walters was not the only instance of Wilson saying the right words needed so as to garner Black support. Wilson was on his best behavior at a July 1912 meeting with the Equal Rights League. 2 years later, William Monroe Trotter recalled how he had succumbed, quote, "At that time, we were received open-handed. We were Afro-Americans over the heads of a score of non-Afro-Americans who were waiting in the anteroom. The governor had us draw our chairs right up around him and shook hands with great cordiality. When we left, he gave me a long hand clasp and used such a pleased tone that I was walking on air. What a change between then and now," close quote. Do you see how easy it is to get Black folks excited over nothing? Over absolutely nothing. You've got the author of the 94 crime bill, segregationist Jim Crow Joe, who gives you a lift every voice African American plan that lifts every voice but ADOS, and ADOS, the lineage, is encouraging you and pressuring you and shaming you into running out and voting for him to unseat Trump, whom we did not place into office. When are we going to grow a backbone, ADOS, and come together collectively to break the back of this and not save white folks from their own foolishness? When are we going to prioritize our very existence over white folks, over Asian folks, over Hispanic folk, over Africans, over Caribbean? When is it our turn to be more interested in our very survival than it is everybody else on the tit? We should be all cried out by all the maladies that impact ADOS, instead of using and expending our energy to save white folks and everybody else, because they're not giving a damn about you. I don't see them out here marching for reparations. And Black lives can't matter if we can't afford to be American. This ain't new. Just happy to take the crumbs. He thrilled from a handshake from a racist. The way y'all thrilled to run out here and vote for Biden and Kamala over Trump, as if there's a difference in the racism and the hate for ADOS. Not the movement. No, we're on our square, and we want you to join us. So I'm not going to beat you up too bad. I'll beat you with a wet noodle. W.E.B. Du Bois and other leaders decided not to side with Roosevelt or Taft, but instead supported Wilson, who was no different from Taft and Roosevelt, pandering for the vote. Trotter, a leader of the Niagara movement, which evolved into the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, which is why I don't believe in taking them over. I'd rather take over the Green Party than to take over NAACP. Breathe, Angela. They are really clowning. Revving engines. This really rarely happens over here. I don't understand. Let me back that up. Trotter, a leader of the Niagara movement, which evolved into the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, supported Wilson in the 1912 election, only to watch as the new president lived up to his unreconstructed Confederate upbringing and segregated the federal workforce. What's different? Biden giving you class-based policies in a lift every voice but ADOS plan while promising to give 11 million more immigrants a pathway to citizenship, and Kamala talking H-1B visas while pretending to be black for your vote. Make it make sense. Oh my God. Y'all want to do this? We're not doing it. I'm hoping to convince and sway some of you before the night is over, before you vote. And please don't mail your ballots. Try to find some place to drive it through or go early vote. But don't trust the mail. It's taking weeks. My sister made these beautiful masks, and it took almost a month to reach me. It was ridiculous. Don't mail it. Upon taking office, Wilson wasted little time in showing his true colors. Biden and Kamala are showing their colors right now. Y'all want us to run out here and vote for them. Wilson's cabinet members, including Secretary of the Treasury, William McAdoo, and Secretary of the Navy, Josephus Daniels, played an instrumental role in carrying out governmental Jim Crow segregation. They helped in establishing an apparatus meant to carry out the policy of exclusion. The National Democratic Fair Play Association began to circulate petitions and spread stories of white government employees who didn't want to work with blacks. Black employees were physically separated from white co-workers. Sheets were hung in the middle of offices to separate them. Certain positions were declared completely off limits for black people. Me speaking. Isn't that happening today? Down here in Los Angeles, we are 44% of the degreed, 6% of the population, including Africans and immigrants, and only 6% of the private sector. We have no social capital at the table. Same-ish, new day. Early 1900s, we still here in 2020. And in the public sector, immigrants have taken it over down here. You'd be hard pressed to find black people in the post office and the like. Same thing all over the country. They're on the construction sites. We're not there. They get the contracts. We don't get those government contracts. And that's why we're on the check. We need that reparations that is owed us. It's not a handout. It's not welfare. So that we can buy our own homes, create our own businesses, and have wealth to transfer generationally to our children and their children and so on and so forth. You let them give you more policy, they'll find a way to give it with the left hand and give away with the right to the whites and the immigrants. All federal officials, including those under Assistant Secretary of the Navy, Franklin D. Roosevelt, were tasked with implementing segregation. Roosevelt personally ordered separate restrooms. Beginning in 1914, all civil service job applicants had to provide photographs, an obvious means of keeping Black applicants out. On November 12, 1914, Wilson met again with members of the National Independence Equal Rights League at the White House. This time, there was to be no cordial good feeling. William Monroe Trotter led the delegation with a petition signed by Black people in 38 states protesting segregation and federal agencies. The Democratic Party had suffered losses in the recent midterm elections, and Trotter claimed the losses were a reflection of Black voters' anger with Wilson. The meeting turned into a shouting match between Trotter and Wilson, which was the only proper outcome. After Trotter mentioned segregation in the Postal Service and Department of the Treasury, the tense exchange began. The president said, quote, "If this organization is to have another hearing before me, it must have another spokesman. Your manner offends me." I was thunderstruck. I immediately asked in what way I was offensive, and the chief executive replied, quote, "Your tone, with its background of passion." Isn't that what I'm accused of to this day? All Black women who raise their voice above an octave and look folks straight in the eye are called the angry Black woman. She's too loud. Same stuff. White folks don't want to hear it. They want you to piss on cotton and be okay with their oppression. I then said, quote, "But I have no passion in me, Mr. President. You are entirely mistaken. You misinterpret my earnestness for passion," close quote. I then continued my rebuttal and was interrupted by the president, especially when I told him that we could not control the minds of the colored people and would not if we could on the segregation question, and would not even if we could on the segregation question. I continued saying, quote, "2 years ago, you were regarded as a second Abe Lincoln," when he stopped me and said he wanted no personal reference. I told him if he would allow me to continue, he would see my intent. He said he, quote, "was the one to do the interrupting and not me," close quote. I then concluded by saying, quote, "Now we colored leaders are denounced in the colored churches as traitors to our race," close quote. Quote, "What do you mean by traitors?" inquired the president. And I replied, quote, "Because we supported the Democratic ticket in 1912. And this is how many churches are appearing to the ADOS. Continuing this lesser of two evil two-step shuffle to our own peril. Shining up to white folks. Pretending that Trump is more of a racist than Biden. When Trump has not, because of his policy, jailed close to 1 million Black men, more than all the women jailed throughout the entire globe. For the new slavery, under the guise of the private prison industrial complex. Look up Biden screaming from the Senate floor, caping hard for what he wanted to call Biden's law. He didn't care that the fact that white folks gave us institutional systemic racism to create the devastations in our communities, the crime and the murders. He didn't care that they, how we got there. He said, lock them up. What about my mother and my family? He could give a damn about how we got there and that they intentionally put us there, as I've been reading since George Washington in this glorious book. And so that's how the church is looking to many of the youth, like traitors. I don't hear them talking about reparations. I don't see the churches taken to the streets. I mean, I'm sure some do, maybe in their respective states, when we're executed by government sanctioned by the race soldiers. I've invited many ministers to our shows, even with ministers some ministers are really helping to get an understanding of the reparations we must fight for. But the ministers I know ignore my pleas to get on those calls. On November 13, 1914, the New York Times headline summed up the encounter succinctly, quote, "President resents Negroes' criticism," close quote. The major newspaper in New York's Black community, the New York Age, described the same incident differently. Quote, "President of the United States endorses segregation as government policy," close quote. It added for good measure, quote, "gets mad with Negroes," close quote. If Trotter is remembered for nothing else, he should get credit for this journalistic proof of acting righteously on behalf of Black people. The argument was needed, and while Trotter backpedaled upon receiving criticism, he accomplished far more than he would have with politesse. Author, lawyer, and civil rights pioneer James Weldon Johnson was among those who realized the benefits of the incident. Quote, "It is perhaps after all a good thing that the incident happened as it did. If Mr. Wilson had listened to the delegation and made some cautious and perfunctory remarks about, quote, looking into the matter, etc., nobody would ever have known that the Equal Rights Committee had waited upon him, and most probably nothing would have ever been done," close quote. But Johnson also realized the folly of Trotter, Du Bois, and others who had endorsed Wilson in 1912. Quote, "It is incomprehensible where those members of the delegation and other colored men who voted for Wilson 2 years ago ever got the idea that he would act differently from the way in which he has acted," close quote. If there had been any doubt about where Wilson stood, his promotion of the film Birth of a Nation ended it. The film, based on the best-selling novel The Klansman, was a paean to white supremacy and a revisionist history of the Reconstruction era. Trotter and others had stopped some stage productions of The Klansman, but director D.W. Griffith, a Kentucky-born Confederate defender, nonetheless, created the film. The elegiac propaganda piece was performed by white actors in blackface and depicted members of the KKK as heroic figures. Wilson not only liked the film, but had a screening in the White House and declared that it was, quote, "like writing history with lightning," close quote, and, quote, "all so terribly true," close quote. Trotter, Du Bois, and others attempted to have the movie banned, but the presidential seal of approval won the day. The horrific film is still considered a cinematic classic, despite its obvious racist content, and it is used for recruitment purposes by the Ku Klux Klan and other white power hate groups. But Wilson did more than promote racist film imagery. He did nothing to halt a series of mob attacks against Black people in late May and early July 1917 in East St. Louis, Illinois. The death toll from the July massacres in all likelihood exceeded 100 people. More than 6,000 were made homeless. The mob violence in East St. Louis has been attributed to labor competition, with new Black migrants from southern states being accused of taking scarce jobs and being used as strike breakers. This is me speaking. They weaponized ADOS, the capitalistic governmental pigs, weaponized the poverty of ADOS as they migrated west, Midwest, North, and East. They weaponized our ADOSness against poor whites to drive wages down in the same way they are weaponizing immigration against the ADOS. We were used to suppress the wages of white folks. Immigrants are being used and weaponized against ADOS to suppress our wages and deny us jobs. The reality was far simpler. One local business leader said, quote, "This is going to be a white man's town hereafter. The blacks will be run out of here and we'll have a white man's town." That's already happening in Los Angeles. We've gone from 16% ADOS to 6%, including African immigrants and Caribbean immigrants. More African immigrants are out here than Caribbean. They are 60,000 liquid to our 200 liquid. The Wilson administration, if you guys give these Democrats a trifecta, it's coming to your city. Stay tuned. The Wilson administration did nothing to investigate or to punish the perpetrators, claiming that no federal statutes had been violated. Conversely, Black soldiers who fought against a similar attempt at a massacre in Houston, Texas in August 1917 were convicted of murder. And 19 of them were executed without being given an opportunity to appeal. What's different, family? The East St. Louis riots and the punishments inflicted on the Black soldiers in Houston generated protests throughout the country. Wilson was again forced to speak to a delegation of Black people in 1917. That group was made up of members of the New York branch of the NAACP and was led by James Weldon Johnson. Johnson pleaded with Wilson to make a statement against lynching. They still have not passed the anti-lynching bills. We are in 2020. But Wilson demurred, claiming that his words would have no special effect. Wilson was polite, and Johnson, who had been a harsh critic, was somewhat mollified. Quote, "When I came out, it was with my hostility toward Mr. Wilson greatly shaken. However, I could not rid myself of the conviction that at bottom there was something hypocritical about him. In the same way there is about Biden and Kamala. It ain't even it's not just hypocritical, it's very much in your face." On July 26, 1918, Wilson did make a statement against mob violence, but he couched his condemnation in terms of the war effort. Quote, "We are at this very moment fighting lawless passion. Germany has outlawed herself among the nations because she has disregarded the sacred obligations of law and has made lynchers of her armies." Ain't that about a blip? Lynchers emulate her disgraceful example. His effort was tepid, made no reference to the racism that encouraged lynching, and failed even to mention Black people by name. Sound familiar, family? Unless, of course, you're Black to pander for the Black vote. That's about the only mention we get from Kamala the Chameleon, who has said she's not doing anything specifically for ADOS as she clutched her invisible ski-wee bison pearls. But the tradition of wishful thinking among Black leadership continued. Johnson praised Wilson's minimal effort. Quote, "So it may be that my estimate of Mr. Wilson was actually colored and twisted by prejudice." These are the kind of Negroes Harriet Tubman would have shot. We got a lot like this today. She'd have shot them. While Wilson received a hero's welcome in Paris in 1919, I'm just about there, family. This is a challenge for me. But we must understand history so we don't repeat it. While Wilson received a hero's welcome in Paris in 1919 to plan the post-war makeup of the world, Black Americans were suffering from even greater violence. The East St. Louis massacres were repeated throughout the country in what became known as the Red Summer. Black people were victims of murder and property destruction in Washington, D.C., and in the states of New York, Delaware, Illinois, Virginia, Kentucky, Georgia, Texas, Nebraska, Arizona, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, and perhaps worst of all in terms of violence committed, Arkansas. Oh, ancestors. I'm trying, ancestors. I'm trying. I am. Oh. Local newspapers, government officials, and racist groups spread rumors of Black soldiers planning murder sprees. Mm. Violent reaction to a sharecropper strike in Elaine, Arkansas, led to the deaths of more than 200 people, and the killers included members of active Army units. While Wilson wanted to make the rest of the world safe for democracy, he turned a blind eye to terrorism in his own country, terrorism that he had the power to stop. Is this not true of Obama, whom we put into office for 2 terms? He gave us Blue Lives Matter. And we're at George Floyd, 846, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Elijah McClain. Too many to list at the end of this show. Wilson is frequently included on lists purporting to prove which presidents were the best. In fact, his record as president is one of the worst for Black people, an example of white supremacy practiced by the highest office in the land. On Thursday, dead President Warren G. Harding and Calvin Coolidge. Family, you know what you have to do. And you know we are the ones that have to do it. I've just shared with you what has been happening to ADOS since we were dragged here in chains as chattel slaves. And the beat goes on. Show up in Obama-style numbers. Vote anybody but Biden-Harris at the top of that ticket. Give the most liberal, progressive Democratic Congress that you can to protect the over 42% of us since COVID that rely on government assistance by design of institutional systemic racism. Let's weaponize the only commodity we've got, our vote, and let's socialize our suffering. And let's wash, rinse, repeat until the Democrats cut the check in the trillions over multi-generations. I'm at an hour, 36 minutes. I want to at least see what you guys have to say. And welcome Wednesday Adams to the live. Since Selim here, one, welcome to the live. Taj Marie, welcome to the live. Okay, that's my show, family. I look forward to seeing you on Thursday. Oh, I do believe I'll still be a guest on Be the Power. So I'm going to schedule my show either before, I will probably schedule the show before their show. They go at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, I think, on Thursday. I'll get the specifics and we'll advertise it in the Facebook and Twitter spaces. I am just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs to be on their show. Mike Michelson, thank you for joining the live. Lions Den ADOS, thank you for joining the live. LaFair Ward, Nicole Harrison, I thank you guys so much for joining the live. Travis Johnson, thank you for joining the live. Black Dollars University. I thank you all for joining the live. I love you, Black and Strong. I will be a guest on Be the Power Thursday, unless Naheem reschedules me. But I will schedule my show around what they're doing. So you'll get a double dose of me. And I'm just thrilled to be on that show with those brothers. And I look forward to when they come and bless Friends of ADOS TV with their presence. With that said, family, I want to put a covering over you. That the light of God surrounds you, the love of God enfolds you, the power of God protects you, and the presence of God watches over you. Wherever ADOS and its allies are, God truly is, because, family, you are the face of God. You are the voice of God. You are the body temple of the Spirit of the living God. Until we meet again on Thursday, family, you make it a beautiful God-inspired rest of your evening and next couple of days. And you go out in this world and act like you know who you are. Okay? ADOS, we are here. ADOS rising. We built this. I love you, Black. I love you, Strong. Make this go viral, family. Peace.